No time for intro, let's get into it. There are a lot of things in the Asian culture that I hate. I would like these things to change if possible. But with this particular topic, it's a bit impossible, but just want to start a dialogue. Once again, as the title suggested, this is about dear Asian people. So, if you're not Asian, please promptly, and I mean promptly, leave. This video is only meant for Asian, the superior race. No, obviously I'm kidding, but what I mean by that is, so I'm Asian, so I can't speak on behalf of white, Latino, African American, European, so I can't speak on behalf of them. I can only speak on behalf of what I know and what I am. In Asia, concepts like dignity, reputation, social hierarchy, it's a very important thing in the Asian culture, especially in Cambodia, and I know a little bit in the Japanese culture, in the Korean culture, the Chinese culture, and the Thai culture. All of these words that I just listed to you, it can all be encapsulated into one word, and that word is face. So we're gonna define what face is, and I'm sure you've heard about this already. I'm sure you've heard about saving face, losing face, gaining face, stuff like that. So what we're gonna do is, first we're gonna define all of those. So saving face have different definition in every country, but to broad stroke everything, it refers to the amount of dignity, it refers to the amount of prestige of one individual has in said society. Saving face means that you try your best to make sure people around you not to lose respect for you, or it's to avoid embarrassment. I will provide example later. So that was saving face. So losing face, which is the opposite, the antonym. Okay, to define whataboutism, it's a technique or practice of responding to an accusation or difficult question by making a counter accusation or raising a different issue. Let's give some examples. So first, the idea of losing face and gaining face, I will provide one example that will tackle both. So let's say, for example, there's a 10-year-old, he's a child, and there's a 50-year-old, they're both Asian, they're at a family party. And then the topic of the pyramid came up. So the 50-year-old says, the pyramids were built by aliens. I'm right, you're wrong. And the 10-year-old is gonna be like, no, you're wrong. I've been studying this in school. The people of Egyptian built this. To say that aliens built this, you diminishes all of these hard work that these early human beings were doing. So what you're saying is wrong. I can prove it to you by providing you with facts that I will find on the internet. And then that 10-year-old is gonna proceed to go on to find it on the internet. And then, while that 10-year-old is doing that, the mom is gonna step in. The mom is gonna be like, don't do it, just agree with him, just agree with him and just say he's right. What the mom is doing, she's trying to save face of the 50-year-old. The mom knows that the child is right, but in the Asian culture, if you're younger, you're always wrong. If you're older, you're always right. No matter how wrong the 50-year-old is, the 10-year-old have to concede. In the process of the mom stopping the 10-year-old, it's saving the face of the 50-year-old, and then it stopped the 50-year-old from losing face for being wrong to a 10-year-old. So I hope that example will give you a bit more clarity. And another thing, a personal example of losing face is, so I love this restaurant called Pornstar. So when we go there, it's famously known for their hot wings and garlic wings. So my friends and I, we order 25, half and half spicy, half garlic. And I'm Asian. I like to eat my food with rice. When I eat a meal without rice, it feels incomplete. It feels weird. So I order rice. And while I'm ordering the rice, my friends, he's eating using his hand to eat the wings, right? And he's gonna use a spoon or a fork to eat the rice. Just, it's proper. It doesn't stand out. But for me, I don't care about other opinion around me as much as them. And I don't care about losing face. While I'm eating these wings with my hands, sometimes I'm just too lazy, or I'm enjoying myself too much and I forget to use a spoon to pick up the rice. So I just use my hands. And sometimes doing that, it gets a lot of eyes on you. People look at you like, what is that dude doing? But to me, I don't really care. I'm a paid customer. I pay for my food just like you. I'm enjoying my meal. I'm not bothering you. I'm simply enjoying my meal. But my friends, they don't want all that attention. They don't want to feel embarrassed. They don't want to lose face. But for me, it never matters. Well, I've learned to not let it matter to me, and it took a long time. I think you can judge by just how I am and the type of video I'm producing and what I talk about. Like, I am not the typical Asian. I don't care that I stand out. I just do what I want to do. I do what I like to do. I don't care if people judge me. I'm happy. And it took a long time for me to get out of that mindset of caring about what other people think, because I grew up in Cambodia. So this culture, this practice is like, it's instilled in me. It's still in me sometimes. Sometimes it jumps out, but I actively like push it down. I hope those examples have given you an idea of what losing and saving face is like. So typically an example of gaining face, I'm gonna put this in the perspective of like a parent. So let's say you're at a family party, right? So the adults, they're gonna talk about, hey, how's your kid doing? When these people have like these conversations, it's not about being proud of their child. It's about trying to one up your peer about how smart your child is. I'm sure for some people it's about like being really proud of like your child. You gain face by this topic of like your child's great. It's like if you have the smartest child, you gain some face within your family, within your circle, whoever's around you. And another thing is that, you know, the stereotypical Asian parents wanting their kids to be doctors. I think being a doctor is just like, it's about the prestige that comes with being a doctor. It's like,
oh, hello, you're my new neighbor. You just moving? Yes, we're moving in for my son's new job. Oh, good. What job? Neurosurgeon. Nice. How old your son? 9. Nice. Very impressive.
Being a doctor gives the parent the ability to say, my child is smart, my child will be rich, and my child is better than you. And I think like the saving lives aspect, it's just like, it's a bonus for them. But it's just the fact that it shows that their kids are smart, their kids will be rich, and they're better parents. They were able to raise a doctor over someone who raised someone to be like a liberal art major, you know? So it's about the prestige. So that's how you gain face. So another thing is flexing to gain face. Like, have you met an Asian person and they have like a Louis Vuitton wallet, right? But then when you ask them to go eat, they're like, oh man, I can't go. I don't have any money. And then you're like, dude, you have a Louis Vuitton wallet. But what you fail to realize is what you probably already realized. I mean, is that like, they spent all that money to make sure they have the Louis Vuitton wallet, and then they end up not having any money in said wallet. So they want that social status. They want to climb the social hierarchy. Like having a Louis Vuitton wallet, it pushes you up a little bit over like someone who have a generic wallet from like Target. So that's how you gain face, through flexing. And another thing is that, now I can only speak for myself and I'm Cambodian. So in the Cambodian culture, car culture is a big thing. Growing up, I always wanted a Mercedes-Benz and BMW. Like we all grew up that way. But in Cambodia, like having these cars, it's about flexing. Like I know someone personally, I won't say any name, but I know someone personally who drives a Mercedes-Benz. This guy like drives like a $60,000 Mercedes. Yet he's more broke, and he always talks about like, oh man, life is so tough. I don't have any money. But then they drive this amazingly expensive car, and I think it's just like, it's the prestige that comes along with said car. So like when they go grocery shopping, they step out, stranger look at them like, wow, that guy's driving a Mercedes, man, he's so cool, he must be so rich. So in the effort to climb the social hierarchy, they've lost like a lot of money just to gain that few moment of like people admiring them, of a few moment of people saying like, wow, you are so cool. You drive a Mercedes-Benz that costs $60,000? Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so whataboutism. So let's bring that back. So I'm gonna bring back the example of like parents with kids in grade. So let's say you and I are talking. Your kids are smarter than my kids. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be like, my kid just got a new girlfriend. She's so beautiful. They're gonna have such beautiful looking kids. You know what I mean? So we're talking about grades at one point, but since I can't win that argument anymore, I'm gonna switch it to my kid having a beautiful girlfriend, and they're gonna have beautiful children. And if you don't have that to counter my attack, you lost.
What you do? I'm a data scientist, triple PhD from Harvard. I invented parallel parking, and I helped NASA land the paperclip on the sun. What the hell does that do? How about you? I'm the face of Beijing Con.
And you know, saving face is also ties back to my earlier video, like dear Asian people, wear your nice things. And like when these people go to the wedding, it's about flexing on their relatives as well. Like sometimes they just put on everything that they own that are expensive. It doesn't even go together, but it shows off their wealth. So they do that to save face, to not lose face, or to gain face. If like you haven't seen your friends and family in a while, and then you're like, let's say you got a new Rolex, let's say you got a new car, you're gonna pull up in that new car and you're gonna make sure everybody's seeing you in that new car. You're gonna make sure everybody's seeing you in that new watch. You're trying to climb the social hierarchy. And you know, just ask your Asian friends, ask them how many times they've been compared to their relatives, to their cousins, to their sister, to their siblings. Like they've been used as an ammo to win the argument for the parent. Like ask any of your Asian friends, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm sure other culture have the same thing, but I can only speak for Asian. Once again, I'm not trying to speak on behalf of white people, Latino, African American. I'm not trying to speak on behalf of those people because I'm not them. And you know, the idea of flexing to gain more face, like I'm guilty of this as well. Like for example, like I feel a lot better when I step out of my Tesla. You know, it's like, wow, I'm driving a nice car. I hope people see me. Like sometimes I get that idea in my head because like this culture is so ingrained into me, like that I had to actively stop myself from like being so cocky when I get out of my car. Like it's like sometimes I'm like, I hope people see me get out of my Tesla. It's like, what? Why am I thinking this way? There's no point. These are all strangers. Why am I trying to gain respect from stranger? It doesn't matter. I'm never gonna see them again. But sometimes I catch myself doing all these things, and I'm sure you have as well. Like I'm guilty of it, and I'm actively working on this because I don't think it's healthy. I do not think it's healthy at all. But I also think it's human nature of all of us to want to climb higher in the social hierarchy because it exists. Like you know, you have people that make 10,000, you have people that make 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire. Like there's a climb that you can go up. At what point do you forget that you should just be happy with what you have rather than trying to flex and climb higher on the social hierarchy? Because money isn't everything. Money should be a thing that shouldn't cause you problem, but it should not be a thing that you aspire to gain purely. Like, my aspiration is mainly happiness. Money, I just want money to not be a problem. With all of what I just said, it's kind of like it's mundane, right? But there's also a lot of negative aspects with this culture of saving face, losing face, and gaining face. And one of them is you refuse to admit that you're wrong. I once worked at some other place. Let's just say I once worked at another restaurant, right? And I was supposed to show up at 6 a.m. So it's like a morning shift, but I slept late. So I went to work at 6:30. So instead of just saying like, I'm sorry, I overslept, I was wrong. While I was driving, I was like, okay, what possible lie can I tell so it's plausible? So I'm like, oh, there was a big traffic. Oh, there's a car crash. It's not my fault. I just wanted people to not lose respect for me. I was coming up with lies, even though like me being late 30 minutes, it's not gonna be the end of the world. But the fact that I chose to like the whole ride to the work, I chose to come up with plausible lies instead of just saying, okay, I overslept, it happened, my mistake, I'm so sorry. When I look back at that time, I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, how fragile am I to think like this? It's not the end of the world. I'm 30 minutes late, so what? The world's not gonna end. The restaurant's not gonna go under just because I'm late 30 minutes. I didn't need to lie, but I lied anyway because I didn't want to lose face. I know, like, so far this video has been fun, but the next few minutes is gonna be very serious. I'm sure you've heard this stereotype. Asian people don't talk about their mental health. But Americans, like, they're more open about that. They go see therapy. If there are 10 people going to see therapy, 9 of them will be white, 1 of them will be Asian, and that Asian will be half white. That's how rare it is in Asia to talk about mental health. So I want to use the correct term. I don't want to overstep. I don't want to offend anyone. So we're gonna look at most of my cited resources are gonna be from Human Rights Watch, which is a organization that is well respected. According to HRW, we should use the term psychosocial disability instead of mental illness or disease. So let's define it. So psychosocial disability, the preferred term to describe people with mental health conditions such as depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, and catatonia. This clip you're about to watch is how badly Asian people are at dealing with mental health.
A pair of eyes peer past a thick wooden door. They belong to a young man locked inside a crude-looking shed. His name is Rata, and his family have chained him to the wall for well over a year.
So as you can see, we're literally locking people with psychosocial disability in cages and like shackle them. Like they're subhumans. I know what you're thinking, and I know you might be thinking that you're angry at the parents for doing this, but they're not to blame, because here are some possible reasons as to why they did this.
Instead, she's imprisoned her son in a shack outside the family home. That's not the way most people deal with mental illness in Cambodia, which is blamed in this Buddhist country on bad luck, bad karma, or mischievous ghosts.
But the main part about why they did this, about why they don't talk about mental health. So instead of like telling their friends that, hey, my child is a special need child, so please be more careful around them, they lock them up in a cage, in a small cage, shackle them. This is where they sleep, eat, and shit, because they want to save face. They don't want to lose face. Let's continue with the clip, and I will provide you with some more statement from HRW.
This, one of 8 drug rehab centers in Cambodia. They're supposed to treat addicts here, but critics say it's a dumping ground for those with mental health issues. We spoke to a member of staff.
ជំងឺការៈជាបកលចរិតនោះគឺប្រហែលជា30ទៅ40%បាទក្នុងចំណោម57នោះគឺមាន17នាក់ប្រហែលជាកលចរិតខួរក្បាលបញ្ហាខួរក្បាល
Okay, so now let's look at Indonesia now. And Indonesia, the culture actually has a word for it. They call it pasong.
Are put in pasong, chained or locked up in homes or in institutions because they have conditions such as schizophrenia or depression.
Pasung sangat umum karena kalau kita melihat masalah pasung itu kan ada macam-macam bentuknya. Bisa dikurung di rumah, dikurung di kamar, atau pakai balok kayu, atau pakai besi, atau nggak boleh keluar pagar. Itu artinya adalah dia harus tidur, buang air besar, buang air kecil, makan di tempat yang sama.
People are shackled in homes by their families, in institutions run by faith healers and traditional healers, and sometimes even in social care institutions.
As you can see, if you are schizophrenic, if you have like depression, if you have like bipolar disorder, like there's a chance that this is how you will be treated if you're in Cambodia.
People who are put in pasong become extremely neglected, isolated, and develop all sorts of physical ailments as a result of being chained.
Akibat dari pemasungan ini, semakin lama tentu semakin banyak yang bisa ditimbulkan. Pertama tentu atrofi otot-otot ya, otot-otot jadi mengecil, kemudian gizi jadi buruk ya, karena income yang tidak baik. Kalau dari sudut mental mungkin juga bisa terjadi traumatic experience pada mereka, pengalaman trauma. Mereka juga secara sosial mereka kehilangan banyak.
I'm going to draw it back to the idea about saving face and provide you with some quotes right now. So this is according to an article called Living Hell: Abuse Against People's Psychosocial Disability Indonesia. As a result, many people with psychosocial disability are ostracized. This leads to families to keep relatives with mental health condition confined and hidden at home and not allow them to have much social contact, as they fear it will lead to embarrassment and shame. You might think, oh, that's a one-off example. I have more quotes for you. So this is according to samhsg.gov. So this is about the stigmatization of mental health Asian American Pacific Islander, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, stigma associated with mental health problem is common in Asian and Pacific Island communities. Shaming related to mental health problem is a cultural norm in some Asian community, leading many who have mental health problem to avoid seeking help despite the need. And I can finish that quote for them because they don't want to lose face. So I have more quotes for you. So this is according to an article from HRW, Chain Shackling People's Psychosocial Disability Worldwide. Despite being commonly practiced around the world, shackling remained a largely invisible problem as it occurred behind closed doors, often shrouded in secrecy and concealed even from neighbors due to shame and stigma. So this is an example of a mother from Bali, Indonesia, and she shared with this article with this interviewer as to why she chose to chain her child. So this is a quote. So we took Nagura to more than 40 traditional healers where they poke him with stick and put herbs in his eyes, but it didn't work. We didn't know what to do. When Nagura kept getting lost, the local police and community blamed and put pressure on us. We felt ashamed, so we decided to chain him. You want to blame the parents, but then you think like, okay, they don't have the proper education to learn about what their child is having. They don't have the money to treat it, the government isn't helping. Like, most of these governments are corrupted. So like, healthcare is not a thing in Asia, in most Asian countries. Cambodia for sure don't have healthcare. So if you need treatment, you have to pay full price. And dude, you and I both know how much like therapy costs here. So imagine paying that without health insurance. Imagine getting your pills without health insurance. Like, you're paying a lot of money. And with mental health, it's not like a broken bone where you go to the hospital once and they fix you. It's an ongoing problem, so you're going to continue to need treatments. Like, this is something that you need to do for the rest of your life. So these people who live in the provinces of Cambodia, Indonesia, Philippines, India, wherever, like, they don't make a lot of money. And these medicine, these treatment, they cost a lot of money. So they end up shackling and chaining their child because like they're stuck in this cycle of not knowing what to do. And if they want to do something, they don't have the resources to do something. So it's a very frustrating thing to talk about because like nothing is gonna get solved. There are just so many problems with it, but I know for a fact that the idea of saving face and losing face, it's a contribution as to why this is a big problem. It's one of the reasons as to why mental health is not as prevalent, is not talked about enough in the Asian culture. My family is one of the rare ones because like they're not that traditional, but most Asian parents are very traditional. In high school, I had this friend, like he failed a few classes, his dad kicked him out. I never have to worry about that. I know that if I fail a class, my family's gonna be like, go find another place to live, you're not allowed in my house. So there are still a lot of traditional, conservative parents that adhere to this culture of like saving face, losing face. Make sure I'll be proud of you. Like it's a toxic trait to have in our culture. Anyway, yeah, so I bring this up because like the idea of saving face, losing face is like, it's kind of funny in some situations, but it can be very serious when applied to the wrong situation. Like chaining your child because you don't understand mental health, because you refuse to believe that your child is wrong or that you produce a child that is not like other children, and you don't want people to judge you. You don't want to feel embarrassed. You don't want to feel judged. You don't want people to shame you. But I think it's time to realize that it's okay, you know. Mental health is part of life. 1 out of like 10 or 1 out of 25 people around the world like have depression or anxiety. Like the statistic is on our side. But it's just in the Asian community, in the Asian culture, it's so much harder to talk about mental health because like the idea of losing face is like if you have mental issues, you're less than other. But you're really not. Like, we all have mental issues. I think we can start by realizing that this stupid notion of like we need to save face or not lose face, it's not that great, and we should like try to eradicate it. I don't know. I don't really have a solution for this, but I just want to bring this up because I hate the idea of saving face, losing face, and all that. I don't like that idea. I wish it was not a part of our culture, but sadly it is. My name is Makasy. Thank you for watching this very, very long video. I will see you soon.
Far too often, treatable mental illness is being left untreated, and at least 50 people, but possibly hundreds, are held in makeshift shackles. This man, left chained up next to his own excrement. This young girl, out of sight, out of mind. And this woman, kept in a room without lights, chained to the wall.